Oh, hello everybody. This is Jenny Lee Secon and my colleague Vicki Haddock here again. Hello,
Welcome, Jenny.
Vicki.
It's fun to be
Yes,
back with you today for our second conversation.
yes, great. And I really love to share with everybody today about our connection, the click we got, right? When we started to talk about our topics, what we want to share with our audience. Because last time, the minute when you mentioned, unsilencing, I remember we mentioned a little bit in our last talk, but this is such a big topic. And I just got that click because it's me also, my job, my lifetime work. It's about finding your voice. So
Yeah.
we didn't have time to talk too much about that, but today we really want to focus on that, unsilencing and finding your voice. So I love to invite you to share with us a bit more today about this unsilencing theme of your work.
Wow, Jenny, there's so much in that one word. And the podcast I host is called Becoming Unsilenced because in my experience, there were so many things in my life that silenced me, that whether it was a cultural condition or a belief I took on for myself. And it's been my work of becoming unsilenced, of working through all of those things, stripping all of those things away, that really allows me to be here with you today to speak what's truly in my heart. And I spent so many years with having the things that were happening around me feel at conflict with what was inside of me. And that causes a lot of internal chaos.
Oh, yeah, battling
Yeah.
conflicting energies.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So you see, we all come out to do our work based on our journey, our stories. So for me, I said it's all about finding your voice because
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I was a child. But what I could describe was that I always felt that kind of silent screaming inside of me, in my throat. And I didn't know what was that. I just felt very angry that I could not be me. I just felt like restricted and limited all the time. But
Yeah.
I didn't really know anything until finally when I went through my transformation journey and I came out to do all these kind of healing coaching work on myself. And then I suddenly felt like, oh, I got it. Actually, it's our throat, our communication energy center about speaking the truth as who we are, not really only communicate with others. So that's
Absolutely.
the whole thing, guided me to go deeper and deeper. Finally, that's why we are here talking about this.
For sure.
So,
And
yeah.
well, I was just going to share my experience as a child was that my own personal opinions, fears, worries, thoughts were not valuable. And in fact, it was even risky and unsafe to let those out into the world, and had some pretty severe consequences at times for me when I did. And so I very much learned early on that it was only safe to hide who I was,
Yes.
and it was unsafe to be who I really am.
Yeah.
And just like you, I didn't begin to dig deeper into those patterns and realize that at all until I went through a period of really true transformation in my life as well.
Yes. Yes. Great. The same thing. I just felt like so insecure and I had to talk and blend in, right? So that I
Mhm.
can be accepted because otherwise I will be judged. So by
It lends to a lot of people pleasing. And I think
oh yeah.
codependency comes from
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It shows up, in everything, in different areas in our
Yeah.
life. Yeah, everything. So we'll talk a bit more. So I want to ask you this question because I experienced this personally, and I see my clients, the people I work with, also had this experience at the beginning. They don't know that
Yeah.
they are even silenced. So, how do you know that you have this silencing issue and a lot of stuff that got jammed? You used your word lump, right? There
Yeah.
is
I said
a
like
lump
the
in my
lump in my
throat.
throat. I felt like I was choking all the time.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, I would love you to share a little bit, and so that people, audience could definitely benefit, from this.
Yeah. So I first began to kind of be aware of this when I would observe that something happening around me. And then I had a choice, and I could sense inside of me what I really wanted. But then what came out of my voice was something different. And
Yes,
then instantly there's like this, I can only call it like resonance or dissonance that happened inside of me. Was like immediately there was this like conflict inside of me. And this happens, I'm going to use an example to really bring it home. But I worked with a gal once who was a grandmother, and she would have these plans set for herself that she really wanted to do. And then her son would call and say, well, I want you to babysit for my child tonight. And in that moment, she had a choice to say, oh, I'm sorry, I have plans for myself, or to say, oh, sure, I'll babysit for your child. Well, what she really wanted to say was, no, I'm sorry, I have plans for myself. That's not going to work. But what
yes,
came out was, oh, sure, I'll do that.
yeah,
I'll change my
yeah.
plans to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right there, that created an internal conflict
Yes,
within her
yes,
where something was silencing her to
yes,
be able to not speak
yes,
the truth
yes. Not
of
honoring.
authenticity.
Yes,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good example. Yeah, it happens a lot,
Yeah, how many times do we do that? When I look at how many times I did that throughout my lifetime, from little things like, where do you want to go out for dinner, to big things like, do I want to stay in this marriage?
actually. Yes,
And
yes, yeah. I got it. When you started just now, I almost wanted to stop you and said, "Yeah, totally resonated with me."
yeah,
So true, so true. So, back to this, what do you think people could really, find out that they are silenced? So this kind of thing, check about what you say and what you hear inside of you, the voice, and then the voice you speak out. There is misalignment there.
right. And I think it's an opportunity, for this grandmother, it was an opportunity for her to say, why is it so hard for me to say no to my child? And the flip of that, why is it so easy for me to say no to myself? And, what we find when we start asking those questions are these beliefs that have lodged in us that keep us playing small. One belief for many women is, I'm the nurturer of the family, and taking care of my family comes first ahead of taking care of me. Certainly is a belief that I had that kept me stuck many times in my life. And so when we begin to be aware, okay, this belief is no longer in harmony with what is best for me, Not that there's anything wrong with her wanting to take care of her grandchild, but there is if it's at the expense of herself.
Yes,
She's choosing that
yes,
for the
yes.
wrong reason.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do believe our audience, many of you will feel resonated and can relate. So, yeah, I love to share, on my end, my
Yeah.
experiences.
What have you noticed?
Yeah. I actually didn't start to work on my throat, even though I did have that kind of feeling, silent screaming inside or so. But I just started to work on my kind of pattern, emotional pattern. I just felt like I was limited and restricted. And especially when I, went through the downturn, like part of my road when things suddenly happened that I didn't understand why, what's wrong, what's going on. I didn't do anything bad, right? Now I knew it's kind of opportunities that I have to experience to come out from the transformation. And now I can do this to serve others. So I just work on those kind of, pattern and with some physical symptoms. I just was,
So, Jenny, can I ask, like, how did
yes.
you become aware of those patterns to start with? Because we can have those at play so long and not even realize it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Of course, a lot of trigger, a lot of, the similar. Of course, I already started to do coaching work because we coach are more
Yeah, that's the
sensitive
best
about that,
personal
right?
development journey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So we are more aware of those kind of patterns. So I just felt like when I started to talk in the group or even in the family casual, social occasions, right? When I started to talk, I always got, like shut or other people started to talk and then they just started and kept going. Actually, I was, like broke in the middle. I was kind of, like started to observe. Then I felt like angry about that. Why? I did have the right to talk, but people just move on to listen to the next one. That's one. And also, when I in my marriage, in a relationship, when I talk to my husband or whatever, and I just felt angry that he didn't listen to me. So I just felt like, you don't listen, you don't listen. And they said, they don't understand. They cannot, get you, right? So finally, gradually, when I started to work on my limitation, this and that, of course, I use this tool to clear the energy. And I finally, started to realize in my throat, you use the word lung. I had this word cork. It was like,
Which so
there was
resonates with me. I was like feeling like that cork was jammed down my
yeah,
throat.
yeah, yeah. It's like the bottleneck, right? It's the
Yeah.
cork there. And just like, feel like, it's jammed. It's so uncomfortable. Now I realize, and now, of course, I learned a lot of stuff about energy, human energy, chakra center, whatever. I knew the throat is really our communication, energy center. Now, when I started, I did so much work on myself. And then I realized when I helped my clients do their work, we don't exactly start from throat, right? But when I started to guide them, speak their truth, express their feelings, because not that many people feel comfortable about expressing their uncomfortable feelings, especially when they had a lot that buried and got stuck inside. So when I guided them to start to express, interesting things happen. Oh my gosh. Some people will started to cough. And I had one woman on site. When we started to do this tapping clearing work, she could not go ahead. She coughed like about 20 minutes, just cough and cough.
Wow.
And because she never learned how to express her feelings. And some other people started to have a throat constriction. And the other ones had to clear their voice. And even yesterday, the person I work with had that. And some other people lost their voice altogether. Cannot talk. I cannot talk now. Can you hear me? Something like that. It's very, very interesting. So that's all the signs. So I just like to share. So you may have different experiences, but after our talking today, I hope we give you some examples and you start to use your word, right, to observe
Yeah.
and to find
Right.
out what made you feel, these signs and what is underneath of those signs.
Yeah, Jenny, and it's amazing. So if we could wrap it all down into a couple concise steps or points that we could share that kind of flow together, I think the one thing I would share with someone is begin to notice when that energy shifts in your body. Because we clearly know, like a piano note being in tune, we can sense when we're in tune and when we're out of tune when we
Yes.
pay attention.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that would be my words of wisdom for today, is begin to really notice when you're in tune and when you're out of tune.
Oh, yes. Yes. So you definitely will have more awareness or cautiousness about this whole thing. Because before we never pay attention. But
Yeah.
now knowing that, we will just use your word, find out this tuning, or,
Yeah.
yeah, not tune inside and outside. Totally. So before we do have like several minutes, right? So do we have? And I actually like to give one point. I think it's really, really important. Maybe next time when we come back to talk, we can add more. But I just want to throw this out there. The throat, our voice or so. I want to point that it's not just pure voice, only about talking and communication, because this throat is the center. We communicate and speak the truth about ourselves as who we are. And energetically, when we show up in the world in our daily life, and the energy is there already, even though sometimes we don't talk. So it's beyond voice and talk. It's also your acting, your behaving, your showing up, your whole being. So you're energetically when you show up, and because of this energy block, if it's there, and it will show up in life. And then some people could even sense it. That's why, when you talk or so, people don't know, they are not aware, but they can sense it. And then, it just pass you and go to the next person, they listen to others or so. So that's a lot, go to very, very deep level. I just want to point it out.
Yeah, and I encourage this. In fact, I do this example when in some of my workshops that I do, we begin by not identifying ourselves as our name, our roles, but we actually just observe each other energetically, and then we share what we have sensed energetically. Now, we've all experienced that when someone walks into a room and you can almost feel the stinky feeling that comes with them,
Yes.
and how that, the worst counseling session I ever had, my daughter and I were seeing a counselor for working on our relationship. And we walked into that counselor's office, and the session before us had gone overdue, and you could just tell when you walked into that
Yes.
office there was this nasty energy, and it was the worst
Yes.
session
Yes.
that we ever had. And knowing what I know now, I would have asked to either move to another space or to just reschedule the session, because but that just goes to show how our energy goes into a space.
Yes.
And for me, I know I come into a space and for so long, I had people say, wow, when we're talking, I just feel so completely at peace or whatever it was. And so I began to understand that, with me came this energy of being able to bring calm into the
Yes.
space, which actually then allows people to really quickly have shifts of
Yes.
awareness and understanding.
Oh, yes. So again, bringing your wisdom you just shared. Actually, let's just take that as our conclusion today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the thing is, we really check and observe this,
Yes.
alignment internally and externally. The inner voice talks about this, and what comes out as the communication we have to the world, to the
Absolutely.
external. Yes. Thank you for that. And for me, I shared already, but let me just conclude this. You just also observe and check what triggers you, and the pattern, what things, occasions, or people you talk to, and symptoms just keep happening again and again. So you just check all these, and you will find so much more information underneath level, because we are talking about subconscious issues. It's
Yep.
not just only in the head. We can think, analyze, and get it done. So it's not just that simple. So yeah, that's why we,
Truth. You speak truth, Jenny.
yes, speak the truth as who we are. And when we do that, it's all aligned, and things become easier.
It
So
does. Life flows without
yes.
the drama that life previously had.
Yes. So great. Thank you, Vicki. Time is up, and we could come back to talk about this. And for all of you who are watching now or will watch later, we invite you to let us know your questions and challenges, what you want us to share and talk more about this unsilencing and finding your voice. Maybe next time we could talk about as a, like a spiritual healing coach,
Yeah.
professional, how we can do that. I have so much to share about that,
And it
right?
would be fun to do a Q&A session if you have any or if we have any listeners that
Yes,
submit a
yes.
question or
So
something, it would be fun to do a Q&A.
yes, do feel free to let us know your questions. We'll come back to you. At the same time, if you like to connect with us, Vicki and me, and know more about our work, group, workshop, everything, so we will put our information there to connect you and support you, to serve you.
Sounds
So
amazing.
far, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching today. Bye for now.
See you next time.
See you.